It was around 2 p.m. The sun was burning hot and leg streets were filled with noise as usual. Cars honked non-stop, street hawkers called out to passengers, and people rushed in every direction, sweating under the heat. She was standing at the busy junction waiting for a chance to cross the road. She wasn't anyone special, just another girl dressed in simple clothes, holding a small plastic bag and looking tired. She noticed an old woman struggling to cross. Her legs were shaking and she was trying to move quickly, afraid of the speeding cars. Without thinking, the girl quickly walked up and took the old woman's arm gently. "Mama, let me help you cross," she said softly. "God bless you, my daughter," the old woman whispered, relieved. They moved slowly, carefully through the traffic. As they reached the other side, the girl's elbow accidentally touched the side mirror of a sleek black Mercedes-Benz parked beside the road. It was barely noticeable. She didn't even realize she had touched it. But immediately, the door swung open. A man stepped out angrily. He was tall and smartly dressed in an expensive black suit, polished shoes, and dark sunglasses covering his eyes. He looked like someone important, someone used to getting his way. "Are you stupid?" he shouted, removing his glasses and glaring at her. She stopped, confused, still holding the old woman's hand. "Sir, you touched my car. Do you even know how much this car costs?" He shouted again, stepping closer. She looked at the car quickly, confused, and shook her head nervously. "Sir, I didn't even realize." Before she could finish, he raised his hand and slapped her hard across the face. People around stopped instantly. The street went quiet for a moment. Everyone turned to look. The slap echoed loudly. Her cheek turned red instantly. The plastic bag she was holding fell from her hand, landing softly at her feet. She stood frozen, her eyes wide open, completely shocked. She couldn't believe what had just happened. "Look at you," the man continued, pointing at her angrily. "People like you always touching things you can't afford. Do you have any idea who I am?" She wanted to speak, to defend herself, to explain, but no words came. She just stood there silently, her cheek burning, tears forming in her eyes. A few people shook their heads silently, looking away. Some brought out their phones, recording quietly. But nobody stepped forward, nobody defended her. The old woman squeezed her hand gently, whispering, "My daughter, leave him. God is watching." Slowly, the girl bent down and picked up her plastic bag from the ground. She took a deep breath, her voice barely audible. "Mama, let's just go." She didn't cry. She didn't shout back. She didn't fight. She just turned around slowly, head lowered, feeling humiliated and ashamed. The crowd watched quietly as she walked away with dignity, the old woman holding tightly onto her arm. The man in the suit hissed loudly, cleaned the mirror of his car with a white handkerchief, and entered his car again. He slammed the door shut and drove off as if nothing had happened. But what he didn't know was this: the girl he had humiliated in front of everyone was no ordinary girl. In fact, she was someone whose name and face he would soon know very, very well. She was the daughter of one of the wealthiest men in the country. She had just returned from abroad after many years away. After the slap, the girl quietly went home without saying a word. Her heart felt heavy, her face still burning with shame. She sat in her room, staring at the mirror, gently touching her cheek. It hurt, but not as much as her heart. Her name was Ifunanya, and she had only returned to Nigeria 2 weeks ago after spending 7 years studying abroad in London. She wasn't a poor street girl, far from it. Her father was Chief Emeka Namani, one of the richest businessmen in Lagos, owner of several large companies and respected everywhere he went. But Ifunanya didn't come back home to show off wealth or status. She was tired of how people treated each other differently based on money and appearance. So she decided to carry out a social experiment, secretly dressing like a simple, ordinary girl to see how people would treat her. Today, she got her answer clearly. She remembered the man's angry face, his voice, his eyes looking at her with disgust. Tears filled her eyes again, but she quickly wiped them away. She had promised herself never to cry for anyone again. But fate was already planning something bigger than she could ever imagine. Across town, inside a tall glass-covered office building, the same man who slapped her entered his office. His name was Billionaire. He was a successful young CEO, running his own thriving fashion company, Luxwear. People respected him, admired him, and even feared him. He had everything: money, power, fame, but inside, he felt empty. He was cold-hearted, arrogant, and proud. But he had convinced himself that was what success required. He didn't remember the faces he shouted at or the people he hurt. To him, they were just nobody people who didn't matter, sitting in his expensive leather chair. He forgot about the girl entirely. She was just another face in the crowd. Another nobody. His day continued as usual. Meetings, phone calls, and business decisions filled his time. And soon, the incident faded from his memory completely. But unknown to both of them, their parents were busy making other plans that would soon turn their entire world upside down. 2 days later, Chief Emeka Namani called Ifunanya into his private office at home. "My daughter," he said gently, "there is something important you must know." She sat quietly. "What is it, Dad? Since you were a child, we made an arrangement with another family," her father continued calmly. "We decided you would marry the son of my old friend, Chief Adebayo Adewale. It was meant to strengthen our family businesses." Ifunanya felt shocked. "Mary, Dad, you never told me this before." "I know," Chief Emeka said gently. "I wanted you to finish your studies first, but the time has come. Both families have agreed to introduce you to at a private dinner tomorrow night." Ifunanya didn't argue. She trusted her father. If he chose this man, there must be a good reason. Across town, at almost the same moment, Obina's parents were telling him the same thing. "Obina," his father said seriously, "it's time for you to settle down. We arranged your marriage when you were young. She's Chief Namani's daughter from one of the richest and most respected families in the country." Obina frowned, annoyed. "Dad, you arranged this without asking me?" "Yes," his father replied firmly. "The decision is made. You'll meet her tomorrow night. She's smart, educated abroad, and very beautiful." "You'll thank me later," Obina sighed, reluctantly agreeing. He had no choice but to respect his father's wishes. Neither Obina nor Ifunanya had any idea they had already met. Violently, shamefully, and without recognizing each other. And they didn't yet know an even deeper secret, that they were not just betrothed strangers, but childhood friends, the closest of friends who had once shared everything before life separated them. But that truth was about to come crashing down at the dinner table, changing both of their lives forever. The next evening, both families arrived at the private dinner organized at an expensive restaurant. The atmosphere was calm, peaceful, and elegant. Soft music played in the background as waiters moved smoothly around tables. Nobody at that table knew what was about to happen. Ifunanya arrived first with her parents. She wore a beautiful dress, carefully styled hair, and expensive jewelry. She looked exactly like the rich, educated daughter she was, not the simple girl who had been publicly humiliated just 2 days before. Minutes later, Obina walked into the room with his parents. He was well-dressed, confident as usual, smiling politely to hide the frustration he felt inside. He didn't like the idea of marrying a woman he had never met, but he had no choice. His father insisted, and he had to obey. Both families exchanged greetings and handshakes. Everyone smiled politely and the mood was cheerful. Then finally, the moment arrived. "Ifunanya," Chief Emeka said with pride. "This is Obina Adewale, the young man we've told you so much about." Your husband-to-be, Ifunanya turned slowly, smiling gently as she faced him. But as soon as their eyes met, everything froze. Her smile vanished, her heart skipped, her body felt suddenly weak. Standing directly in front of her was the same man who had slapped her on the street. Her eyes widened in shock. Obina stood, completely still. His smile disappeared instantly. His eyes searched her face, realizing slowly why she looked so familiar. No, it couldn't be, he thought. Silence filled the room as everyone waited for them to speak. Is everything all right? Chief Emeka asked slowly, sensing the sudden tension. Yes, Obina answered quickly, trying to control his voice. We're just surprised. Ifunanya didn't speak. Her mind was spinning. She felt angry, embarrassed, and deeply betrayed by fate itself. Their parents began to discuss wedding details, unaware of the storm building inside their children. Excuse, Emmy, Ifunanya said suddenly, her voice shaking slightly. I need some fresh air. She quickly stepped outside to the balcony. Obina followed immediately, feeling desperate to explain, but having no idea what to say. They stood outside quietly, the city lights shining beneath them. Ifunanya finally turned to face him, her eyes cold. Did you even recognize me that day? Obina felt ashamed. He tried to speak, but words failed him. She continued bitterly, you slapped me in front of everyone. Humiliated me, and now we're supposed to marry. Ifunanya, he started, but she cut him off. You didn't even know who I was, but it shouldn't have mattered. You didn't have to know me to respect me. Her words hit him hard. He knew she was right, but the shame and guilt he felt couldn't be undone. I'm sorry, he finally said quietly, lowering his eyes. I can't change what happened. Ifunanya stared at him for a long moment. You're not the boy I used to know, she whispered painfully. Obina looked up quickly, shocked. What do you mean, the boy you used to know? She paused, suddenly realizing her own slip. She sighed, looking away suddenly. Obina, you really don't remember me, do you? Years ago, Ifunanya and Obina were best friends in the village. They played together every day beneath the mango tree, sharing food, secrets, and laughter. But suddenly, Ifunanya's father sent her abroad to study. On her last day, they held hands tightly under the tree, promising never to forget each other. Ifunanya gave Obina her favorite bracelet as a memory. But over the years, distance grew, letters stopped, and memories faded. Life changed them both, turning childhood promises into distant memories. Now reunited painfully, they realized the bond they once cherished had been tragically forgotten. Until this shocking reunion, his heart began beating fast. Her voice suddenly sounded so familiar. You're Ifunanya, from the village. He whispered, his voice shaking. Yes, she replied softly, tears filling her eyes. The same Ifunanya you slapped without even looking at her. Obina stood frozen, guilt crashing down on him like a storm. His heart sank deep. He couldn't believe what he had done. The girl he had publicly humiliated, the woman he was meant to marry, was the same person who once meant everything to him. She was the only girl who had ever genuinely loved him, when he had nothing at all. But now he realized he might have lost her forever. After the shocking reunion, Ifunanya felt heartbroken. She couldn't stop remembering Obina's angry face, his slap, and harsh words. It hurt deeply that the same boy who once protected her had publicly humiliated her without a second thought. Obina, overwhelmed by guilt, couldn't sleep or eat properly. He tried reaching out, sending countless apologies, flowers, and heartfelt messages. But Ifunanya ignored them all. The pain was too fresh, and the humiliation too strong. Their parents noticed the tension and worried the marriage might break. Obina's mother pleaded with Ifunanya to forgive, but she quietly replied, I don't recognize the boy I once loved. Feeling hopeless, Obina made a difficult choice. He publicly stepped back, telling everyone, Ifunanya deserves better. If she chooses to forgive me, it must be her own choice. As he withdrew, sadness filled both their hearts. The distance between them widened painfully, and hope for their future slowly began to fade. Ifunanya missed the boy who once meant everything, but her pride and pain kept her away. Both felt broken, uncertain if the deep wounds between them could ever truly heal again. Months passed quietly. Ifunanya slowly began moving forward, dedicating herself to charity work and helping others. One day, she learned about a youth shelter named the Foundation. Built anonymously, curious, she visited. Shock filled her heart when she saw Obina there, quietly working, playing with kids, teaching, and smiling genuinely. He looked humbled and sincere, completely different from before. "I built this for you," he confessed softly, "not to win you back, but to thank you. You made me realize who I never want to be again." His genuine change moved her deeply. Slowly, trust began returning to her heart. Weeks later, Obina visited her family home respectfully. He knelt down humbly, presenting the same bracelet she gave him as children. "Can you forgive me? And let me spend my life making things right?" he asked sincerely. Her eyes filled with tears as old memories flooded back. Finally, she smiled softly and accepted the bracelet, whispering, "Yes." Their simple wedding happened under a familiar mango tree, just like their childhood promise. Love returned, scars healed, and a painful slap became the beginning of a beautiful story they would cherish forever. Always treat others with kindness and respect, because fate can turn strangers into family and pride into regret. My besties, if you enjoyed this story, like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you soon with another heartfelt tale.